are not the thoughts. The thoughts are not you. It's a big misunderstanding that people get it in their heads that they're their mind. If you are your mind, then who created the mind? Where did the mind come from? Because the mind is a higher cognitive thinking. You see the animals and the minerals around you, and they have a lower cognitive thinking. They have a mind, or else it wouldn't be there. Could it interact with the mind that is all things, that is you? But mind is the push forward, the accelerant. Gradual increase of mind is called evolution, and it ties in with the gradual increase of self. But mind, as the Buddhists think, is not everything. Mind is an expression, because you can exist in silence without thought. Then what are you then? Silent mind? In a sense, yeah, but the mind is just a screen. It's a reflection. It's the easel on which the painting goes. But there's also an artist. The only reality is the artist, the spark of the sun that we all carry. So, when you get into this idea that, oh, maybe I'm this thing, or maybe I'm that thing, or maybe I'm this person, or maybe I'm that person, maybe I'm a light worker, maybe I'm this kind of thing or that, maybe I'm a Buddhist, maybe I'm a whatever it is. Any of these things which you formulate thoughts to make opinions about what the self is not real. The self can never be known by the mind. The self is experienced in stillness, when the mind is allowed to be a clear reflection of the self. So when you're thinking, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that, stop. Take a deep breath. And be who you are, without telling yourself what you might or might not be. If you ever tell yourself that you're something that is special, that is not what something else is, stop. Right there. You are equality, period. There's only one unity that is you, that is all things. The rest is just an illusion. And I know it's okay to understand yourself as this or this role that you play, but you can't think of yourself as that. The only way to enlightenment is to consistently know that you are the original source of all things, beyond any words, beyond any definitions, beyond any role or function, because it's all roles and all functions, whatever it wants to be. This thing is beyond speaking. So all these thoughts about what you may or may not be is just not real. It's a waste of your time. If you're making thoughts to judge somebody, if you're making thoughts, maybe I should be doing this instead of doing this, or whatever. Do you remember your train of thoughts that you've had for the last however long that you've been on this earth? Do you remember every single thing? No. Thoughts are transient. They pop in, they pop out. Another thing. You know, Alan Watts said one time that the problem with you is you think your thoughts. No. Thought is everywhere. This is thought. It's important to remember that you are not just a third-dimensional being. You're also a second-dimensional being. You're also an omni-dimensional being. But this present experiencer that you're sitting in is not just a three-dimensional being. There's a second density aspect of yourself. There's a first density aspect of yourself. So when it gets to that level of first density, it's like a thought. We call it the photonic tachyon border, or the tachyon energy field. Tachyon energy is a type of super light speed. That means more than light speed energy, which is in all places, all times, all spaces in the universe. It's subphotonic, smaller than photonic. So if you are also a first-dimensional consciousness and a second-dimensional one, the first-dimensional one is this thing which interacts with this photonic border underneath everything in the universe. Everything is a thought. Pushing upwards in the densities, crystallizing, gaining new features like this body, the hands that we use, the senses that we use to intake our surroundings. But everything is thought. It began with thought, and you're still thought. And this thought is not emanating from your head. It's emanating from all things. There's nothing around you that isn't thought. If you look at it with a super electron microscope and you see, wait, there's nothing there, then I guess you'll just shit your pants. Like the scientists have been doing for the last 30 years since they figured this stuff out. Isn't it beautiful how neatly it ties together with spirituality and how, and the Vedic knowing and alchemical knowing? It's because it's truth. Everything around you is a thought. The entire universe is mental. Does that make you infinite? Yes, it does. Does that make you one with God? Yes, it does. Because if you are one with thought, and thought is the very, very, very structure of being, of everything, then that means that you are not thought, which is an expression of you. This is your creational tool. Remember, we're all creators here. Whatever you think is what you'll end up creating. So the main thing about the earth is that we've been tricked first out of this knowledge that I'm talking about. We've been tricked into thinking that we need to worry ourselves. We think that we need to panic about things. We need to just freak out about whatever happens. We need to think of ourselves as separate. We need to use our thoughts to create an image of what we are. But what we are is before thought. You were born, you were a baby, you didn't have too many thoughts, I would gather. You're still you. What happened? Some different attributes and experiences which have been thrown into a box and called you based on these thoughts. The world has entirely too much thoughts. It's a big thing to do with why the grids and all this stuff of the earth is all messed up and backwards, because we're constantly pouring in our creation of anxiety, of a backwards feedback loop. It's no good. So when you have thoughts that are making you this thing or making you that way, it's because you're creating it. It's nothing else. It's not because you're worried. Worry is a result of your own creation because the thoughts which you are having are telling you to create worry. It's as simple as saying that your thoughts are who you are. In the moment. Of course, we know who you truly are. But when you're thinking, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that, everything. And when you think, you're telling yourself what you want to feel, what you want to experience. So don't think maybe I'm not good enough, because then that's all you'll create. That's all you'll get. Think for the infinite. Think exponentially great. So thought is everything around you is crystallized thoughts. Was a Tibetan Buddhist way of putting it. Crystallized thought. You have the third density, remember, this body, this physical shell. Second density, we have the cells and all this stuff. First density, the particles and the subphotons, the tachyons. And it all exists throughout your whole being. You are a first, second, and third density being. You should not forget that. So this part of you which formulates ideas and thoughts, this is your higher cognitive first density aspect. Not separate from the first density that is every atom in the universe. Scientists have speculated that there's only one photon that circulates endlessly forever throughout all things. Super light speed, all places, all spaces, all times at one time. So when you are connected to this, which you are at all times, You are connected to all things. So let your mind rest in the knowing that you are not the thoughts. Let your mind rest in the knowing that your only identity is nature itself. Just let your mind rest, please. If you find yourself bugging yourself about anything, if you find yourself making yourself anxious or nervous or depressed or insecure or anything like this, it's only a result of your own creation. I think that's a really, really important lesson for anybody on this world right now.